We covered that. Now we're going to go to the tribe of Issachar. And you know, there's a lot of history. You know, we can get a lot of history books and accounts, but we'll be here for hours going into that, man. But you got the main point, the main focus, mainly the scriptures. You got the main point. If you can't see that that's the tribe, talking about the tribe of Ephraim, then you're not, your eyes are not open, all right? But like the Lord told the disciples, you ain't going to receive everything. He said if you are able to receive it. All right? That's right. All right, now we're going to deal with the tribe of Issachar. And I got some a couple of clips on Issachar. The first scripture I want to go to is Genesis, the 49th chapter, the 14th and the 15th verse.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 14. Issachar is a strong ass couched down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute.
Read that again, nice and slow.
It says, Issachar is a strong Issachar is a strong ass couched down between two burdens.
Now, if you go to a travel agency and you want to go to Mexico, you go inside that travel agency. I don't know if they do it today, because I went to Mexico City back in '87. If you go into the travel agency, especially like I said, you have travel agencies that deal with, you can go to Europe, you can go to China, you can go to Mexico, you can go to Puerto Rico. But now, when I went to Mexico, the travel agency that I dealt with my woman was mainly my woman dealt with the preparations and all that, okay? Because she had went to school down there, so she knew how to speak Spanish, and so she was a Gadite, but she knew how to speak fluent Spanish and everything. And she had lived in Mexico for a while, going to school. So she talked me into going to Mexico. So I said, well, look, if I'm going, I'm going to bring literature, you know, and that's exactly what I did, you know. And them people took to this truth, man. When you told them that they were Issachar, they were one of the tribes of Israel. When you give them a literature, they would just stop whatever they were doing. They would even children. They would stop and read, and then they would ask you questions about the literature if they didn't understand certain things. I was on a train, they called the Metro, and I had passed out literature to everybody on that train, right? And when I got off at the stop, I think more than half, about 60% of the people got off and surrounded me, and they were asking me all kind of questions about this information. So they took to it, man. Okay? So now when you go to that travel agency, before you go to Mexico, you might see posters up. You know, if you're gonna go to Spain, you might see posters of a mountain or some famous castle, or you might see you see a poster of Mexico, and sometimes you'll see an ass or a donkey with two burdens over the donkey's back. So that's what we're reading about right now. So let's read that again.
Issachar is a strong ass couched down between two burdens, and he saw that rest was good.
And he saw that rest was good. Now, we didn't go and look up the siesta. The siesta is when you would work early in the morning, and I believe it's 3 o'clock. Now, there's this mechanic I deal with his family. They're from Mexico. They can be working on your engine, man, and as soon as 3 o'clock hits, they'll stop everything, man, and they'll just sit down for an hour and eat and just lay back and relax. It's like there's a spurt on them. And then if you can say, no, you wait till 4 o'clock. You got to wait. All right, that's how they are, because you had this thing where they bust their ass. By the way, Issachar means he is hired. Now, the way to pronounce it is not Yashakar, is Yashashka. Yashashka. Okay? Yashashka means he, the Yah, he hired, or he is hired. That's what it means. Because he became a servant to tribute. Because let me tell you something, I can't work the hours that Issachar can work, man. They work 18, 19 hours like it's nothing. Because it's in their DNA. Because the Most High made them that way. That's why, hence they got the name Issachar, Yashashka, which is an omen. He is hired. Okay? Read that again.
And he saw that rest was good.
So read it from the top.
Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant.
The land is pleasant, man. When I went down there, the smell of the land, you had palm trees down there. You had different type of trees and vegetables down there. You know, it was a whole different spirit. Go ahead.
And bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute.
A servant unto tribute, meaning tribute means work. That's when the Spanish word trabajando, which means work. Okay? When you pay tribute to somebody, that's that word work. You work for somebody. Okay? Alright, go ahead.
That was it on that.
That was it on that? Alright, now let's go from there to the book of Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter and the 18th verse. Alright, go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 33 verse 18. And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. They shall call the people unto the mountains. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of the treasures hid in the sand.
Read that last part again, the middle.
Okay, it says, there they shall offer...
Read the part where it goes into Issachar.
Okay, it says, and Issachar in the tents, and Issachar in thy tents, they shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the sea.
Right. The part where they said about sacrifices of righteousness is a lot of them know that they're Israelites. Right. You run into enough of Mexicans, they'll tell you they know that they're Israelites. Now the reason why they know that they were Israelites, because I had the article, but I don't have time to really bring it out, but you can look it up for yourself. That during the time of the conquistadors, you had a lot of Spaniards and Moors, which were Israelites, come to Mexico. And then they would marry Mexican women, they would intermarry with them, and they would bring their custom of being an Israelite, or the Torah. So you had mixed families where you had Issachar marrying among the real Israelites and some so-called Jews. So they were actually praying to the Most High. They were following Torah. Now years ago, back when YAHAWAH was still living, I'm talking about back in the early 80s, he actually had an article where it was showing you that there was a group of Issacharites that actually take out the Torah and they do the Torah blessing and they keep the Passover. But I was trying to find that article and I couldn't find it. It's an old article. But if you do enough research, which I have found an article on the web, it tells you back in the 1500s and the 1600s, you had a lot of Israelites from Spain that came over here to the Americas, mainly Mexico. All right? Go ahead.
It says, and Issachar in thy tents. Then they shall call the people unto the mountains. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of the treasures hid in the sand.
And of the treasures hid in the sand. Now what treasure is hid in the sand? That Esau known about this back in the 1800s? I'm going to let the brother read this part of this article.
Yeah, this is from a web page entitled Oil. It says, although explorers drilled Mexico's first petroleum well in 1869, oil was not discovered until the turn of the 20th century. Commercial production crude oil began in 1901. By 1910, prospectors had begun to define the Panuco, Ibano, and Faja de Oro fields located near the central Gulf of Mexico coast town of Tuxpan. And systematic explorations by foreign companies came to supersede the uncoordinated efforts of speculative prospectors. Mexico began to export oil in 1911. Now there's a point down here in the third paragraph. I'll just read it. It says, Mexico was second only to the United States in petroleum output and led the world in oil exports. By the early 1930s, however, output had fallen to just 20% of its 1921 level as a consequence of worldwide economic depression.
Yeah, so the oil's still down there, man. Now, you know, down there in the Gulf of Mexico, they cracked the bottom of the sea right there, and they can't stop the oil. They wanted oil, now they're getting too much damn oil. All right? They want it, so they got it. You got some more?
Yeah, reading on further, it says Mexico's oil output expanded at an average annual rate of 6% between 1938 and 1971. Production increased from 44 million barrels in 1938 to 78 million barrels in 1951. Domestic demand progressively exceeded output, and in 1957, Mexico became a net importer of petroleum products. Production rose to 177 million barrels by 1971, with the exploitation of new oil fields in the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. So that's the point.
That's right. You got something?
Yeah, this is Genesis chapter 30, verse 14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night, and the Most High hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, The Most High hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar.
So that goes back to the omen, name sign. So his name was called He Is Hired, and guess what? That was in the spirit, man. Okay? Now, do we read Deuteronomy 33? Okay, so we read that. Now let's go from there to the book of 1 Chronicles, the 12th chapter, and the 32nd verse. Now this is an important scripture because they came out with a movie called 2012, right? And it's based off of the, now get that ready on the tab, brother. You got the first tab, which is, it says something about Maya, and then the second tab goes into it, it follows suit, all right? And there's one of them tabs where it goes into the calendar. I think it's the Mayan calendar, the first one where it goes into the Mayan. It tells you about the calendar and so forth. It's down in there. You just got to find it, all right? But anyway, the reason why they made that movie, or when they made that movie, they based it off of the prophecy of the Issacharites, the Mayans and the Aztecs. And you know what? The Mayans and the Aztecs are right. But it doesn't mean that this man's going to go down in 2012, but this man may go down in the next couple of months, in the next 6 months, in the middle of 2011. It could happen in 2012 or a little beyond 2012, but we're right in that time. In other words, we're not going to be here for another 50 years. You see the tension going on around the world, okay? Everything's in place for this man to crumble down, man. You see his bridges going down. He don't have no money. He can't build anything back, man. His society's going down slowly, but then the Most High is going to speed it up by causing them to go over there to Iran and Russia getting involved, and then they're going to have that nuclear war. They're going to have that third world war. So we're right in that time. So anybody that calls themselves being in the Bible that can't see that, then there's something wrong with you. Okay? Go ahead, Ak.
1 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment.
Read that again, nice and slow.
And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment.
Now go from there to the book of Genesis, the 1st chapter and the 14th verse. I'm sorry, the 14th and the 15th verse. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. And the Most High and the power said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
Read that again slow.
And the God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven.
The lights in the firmament of the heavens is the sun, the moon, a greater light to rule the day and a lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So that's what we're talking about. The sun, the moon, and the stars. Go ahead.
To divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons.
Let them be for signs. What's a sign? An omen. Like I don't know if it's today or tomorrow, they had it on the news where they're going to have another, I think it's a solar eclipse. But it can only be viewed in Hawaii. That's a sign. That's a sign that something's getting ready to come. When Moses, before he was born, don't you know the Magi's, the stargazers of Egypt, they knew that there was going to be a deliverer because they saw the stars, the formation of the stars, and they said that Koltep, which is Halley's Comet, came through, and they said a deliverer's coming. Remember before the Lord was born, or when he was born, there was a star that Herod kept in contact with the company of wise men about the star. You can read it yourself in the New Testament. Read it for yourself in the New Testament, and they knew that there was going to be a Messiah, the prophecy of the king of Israel to take down Esau, pursuant to Numbers, the 24th chapter, because it said a star shall come out of Jacob. So they knew about the stars, that the certain formation of stars or comets or eclipses. When the Lord was put on the cross, was not there darkness for the space of, I believe it was 3 hours? And it was what, 3 o'clock? I believe it was from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Because they said it was the 9th hour, right? 6 in the morning is the first hour, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. Actually, I mean 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. The 9th hour of the day was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He was already on the cross. And what happened? There was darkness. Why? Because there was an eclipse. That was another sign. All right, go ahead.
This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 6. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of...
For a declaration of times. Now go back to Chronicles and then go back to the Apocrypha.
This is 1 Chronicles 12 and 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times.
So what does that mean by the times? It means they can look up into the heavens and they can say, this is what's going to happen. When Israel went out to war, they're going to win the battle. Or no, don't fight on this day. Wait 2 weeks later. The high holy days. But in the case of Issachar, they looked at the stars and the Most High gave them the spirit to know that something major was going to happen. That's why everybody around the world points to 2012 coming from the Mayans and the Aztecs. All right? Go ahead.
Ecclesiasticus 43 and 6. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
Yeah, there's a couple of photos. This is on the Teotihuacan webpage from Wikipedia. It says, view of the Avenue of the Dead and the Pyramid of the Sun from the Pyramid of the Moon. And then when you scroll down, there's another picture. It says, and the view in the other direction from the Pyramid of the Sun. Should I go to Maya?
Go to the Maya.
All right. Now, I'm going to go to Maya. I had, well,
Go to the part with the calendar.
yeah.
About the calendar.
Yeah, I got something of interest to you, too, to tie into what you just read, dealing with the observations. The tribe of Issachar, also known as the Mayans, and their observation of the sun and the moon and whatnot. This is under Maya in the Wikipedia. It's under notable constructions. It says observatories. The Maya were keen astronomers and had mapped out the phases of celestial objects, especially the moon and Venus. Many temples have doorways and other features aligning to celestial events. That just backed up what you said about how they could look up in the skies and know certain events were coming. Round tables often dedicated to Kukulkan, and perhaps those most often described as observatories by modern...
Can I say something?
Yep.
Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl, that's supposed to be YAHAWASHI. Because YAHAWASHI came to the Americas after he left the apostles, okay?
Yeah, reading on. It says, many temples have doorways and other features aligning to celestial events. Round temples, often dedicated to Kukulkan, are perhaps those most often described as observatories by modern ruined tour guides, but there is no evidence that they were so used exclusively, and temple pyramids of other shapes may well have been used for observation as well. Now, if we scroll down, we go to mathematics. This is dealing with the calendar. It says, in common with the other Mesoamerican civilizations, the Maya had measured the length of the solar year to a high degree of accuracy, far more accurately than that used in Europe as the basis of the Gregorian calendar. They did not use this figure for the length of year in their calendars. However, their calendars, or the calendars they used, were crude, being based on a year length of exactly 365 days, which means that the calendar falls out of step with the seasons by 1 day every 4 years. By comparison, the Julian calendar used in Europe from Roman times until about 16th century accumulated an era of only 1 day every 128 years. That's pretty much it on that.
Yeah, so it's telling you that Esau knows that Issachar, they were heavy into dealing with the calendar, which a calendar has months. The word months goes back to moon. So they were able to look into the heavens and see actual prophecy in the making. All right? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, one more thing I had written down. It's under religion on the same Maya page. It says the Maya underworld is reached through caves and ball courts. It was thought to be dominated by the aged Mayan gods of death and putrefaction. The sun Kinich Ahu and Izama, an aged god, dominated the Mayan idea of the sky. Another aged god, God El, was one of the major deities of the underworld. The night sky was considered a window showing all supernatural doings. The Maya configured constellations of gods and places saw the unfolding of narratives in their seasonal movements and believed that the intersection of all possible worlds was in the night sky.
So that's right. Well, calculus, that, there's a movie called, I believe it's called Stand and Deliver, with Edwin James Olmos. And it was based upon a true story of these Mexican kids in L.A. that he taught them calculus, and they couldn't get it at first because it was advanced math. And he said, come on, that says. He said, this is in your blood. The Aztecs and the Mayans, man. They used to do this, man. And then he said, don't you know that his people, the Mayans, they understood the concept of a negative number. All right? He said Esau didn't even understand what a negative number is. Like you got -5. -5 plus 2 would be -3. If you understand positive numbers and negative numbers. All right? So that goes right back to the scriptures. Okay? You got anything else? Because I want to bring this clip out. Go ahead.
John chapter 10 verse 16. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice. And there shall be one fold and one shepherd.
Now that's talking about, the Lord was telling them that he's going to go, he's going to leave them, and he's going to go to the other side of the world. That's what the Mormons preach about. That how the Messiah came on this side of the world to the Americas and spoke to the Gadites and the Issacharites and the other tribes. And he told them that he was going to come back. All right? So the Mormons know that much. Now I want to go to this clip right here. And this is what Esau has to say about the whole Mayan calendar and so forth, 2012.
'21 is the day, December 21st, 2012. Can you imagine going out perhaps early in the morning on that date, looking up and seeing a large, fiery, tumbling thing headed straight at Earth? Can you imagine that? We'll ask why the Mayans picked that particular date in a moment. I've always baited myself about the end of the Mayan calendar, figuring a couple of Mayans were sitting around. One said to the other, I've had it with this calendar crap, that's it. And that's when they stopped. They just got sick of making calendars. I don't know. But here we have a date, 21 December 2012, which could be the end of all, perhaps. Why that date? On what do you believe they might have based that? I'm going to ask how the Mayans might have known to pick that specific date, 21 December 2012. How did they know? We'll be right back. You believe all this is a recurring cycle of destruction, yes?
I think we have to be open to the possibility that it's a recurring cycle of destruction, because that's precisely what the ancient myths say, that there is some dark danger that visits the earth periodically over long periods of history. It may go away for thousands and thousands of years. It may be completely forgotten. It may be something that people never ever think about, but then, like a grim avenger, it comes back, it returns to strike us down. People never ever think about, but then, like a grim avenger, it comes back, it returns to strike us down again. And there seems to be some kind of cycle operating, which perhaps we don't fully understand. And I suppose the alarming prospect, and the one that should focus our minds and that we should consider seriously, is that this cyclical cataclysm spoken of in the ancient myths and in the traditions just might return in our own time. We should learn the lessons of history, that we should be aware that what struck our ancestors down may return to strike us again today. We could indeed be facing the return. All we have are the memories and the traditions and perhaps the warnings that have been passed down to us by ancient civilizations. And there's no doubt in my mind, very clearly ringing out like a bell is a warning coming down to us from the past. And
Do you think one of those warnings was issued by the Mayans?
yes, I do. I think the Mayan calendar is extremely interesting in this respect. And the Mayan calendar does, of course, contain a prophecy which could be interpreted as a prophecy literally of the end of the world in our time, certainly of the end of civilization as we know it, and very specific dates. And the date the Maya put on it, translated into our calendar, is the 21st of December, 2012, as of course is very widely known. I think many people in the world today are aware of this ancient warning and slightly spooked by it and rightly concerned by what it might mean. Now, it's not as simple as that. The Mayan calendar and the ideas that lie behind it are extremely complicated. The Maya were extraordinarily accurate and precise observers of the heavens, and that they had a very clear knowledge and understanding of time and the way that the passage of time affects the positions of the stars in the heavens, and in particular the positions of those stars lying in the background against the rising point of the sun on the horizon on particular days of the year. And what happens on 21 December 2012, and in fact really, as John Major Jenkins points out, we're looking more at a window here rather than a very specific and exact moment, a window of about 40 years. Now I think what's going on here is that the Maya are not saying that in itself causes the disaster. I think they're saying that is the marker by which we can recognize the return of the disaster. It's like a clock in the heavens, and their astronomy was so accurate that they were able to predict this event thousands and thousands of years ago.
Well, given that date and a 40-year window, our butts are just about hanging out that window now.
Our butts are right hanging out of that window now, and I do think that we need to take seriously what the Maya had to say, but that it also involves responsibly studying exactly what the Maya did have to say, and that is a very complicated message, not an extremely simple message.
You got, this is about a 10-minute piece, but you got the point. You got the point